Good evening, everyone. Hello and welcome. My name is Gail Giles-Gidney and I'm the very proud Mayor of Willoughby City Council. And you'll see after this presentation this evening one of the reasons why I am so proud. Because I think we've had a really good year and we continue to build on the solid results that we've had previously. We're very pleased to be joined tonight by a number of our councillors, and I will get you to stand up and give a little wave. Councillors are basically doing their job for love, not money. I can attest to that from a personal perspective. So we really appreciate the time and energy that they devote to their community. So we've got Councillor Dennis Fernandez. Welcome, Dennis, for Sailors Bay Ward. We've got Councillor Wendy Norton, Middle Harbour Ward, and Councillor Judith Rutherford. Welcome, Judith. Thank you for coming along. In spite of Judith's broken wrist, she's still here. That's the kind of people we are here at Willoughby Council. Councillor Christine Chion from Narrabeen Ward. Welcome, Christine. And also Councillor Brendan Zhu from Sailors Bay Ward. So thank you for coming along and joining us this evening. We are going to be looking at the year that was, and so as we are reflecting on the past, we also should reflect on further beyond being the Aboriginal people and their spirits and ancestors, and we acknowledge the vital contribution that the Aboriginal people have made and continue to make to this wonderful nation that we share, Australia. Now, there are a couple of little ground rules here. You can see that we've got a video camera going. Hello out there. We are going to be webcasting this meeting, so you can go and listen many times and get a real feel for what's going on. We have webcasted the two previous community information sessions that we've had, and we've had some terrific talks. So if you are interested in the activities of council, I would strongly recommend you go and have a look at that if you haven't been able to attend in person. And we're very keen about this community engagement session that we're holding. It is quite a new thing that we're doing. There was a change that we had in our meeting procedure, so we're meeting now once a month rather than once every fortnight. So far so good. We're getting through the business of council in a timely manner, which is great, and that was really on the back of some changes that we had around. We're no longer dealing with major planning issues, etc. So we had some free time, and rather than giving the councillors a Monday night off, we thought, well, we'll do this community information session, which is an opportunity for the public to come and hear what we're doing, but also an opportunity for you to ask questions. And we will be taking questions at the conclusion of the presentation, and we would ask that rather than if you've got an individual gripe or a suggestion about your personal property or circumstance, we will have the team who will stay beyond the meeting, and we're more than happy to take those individual questions. But if you've got questions that perhaps are broader interest, that would be most appropriate, just so we're not being held up with everyone's little footpath cracks or holes in the road. I'm sure all the rest of the participants will appreciate that. Now, we are going to be talking about the year in review, and we will finish at 8 o'clock. Those of you who have attended any meeting that I've chaired will know that I'm pretty strict on time, and so 8 o'clock finish, we hope to have you all out of here and back in your snuggly jammies or whatever you want to be doing on a Monday night. I want to also introduce the other members of staff who are here today. We have our CEO, Debra Just.
Hello.
Welcome. We'll be hearing from all these people in a minute. And I just want to tell you, and this will be relevant to Debra's presentation. Debra started with us in February 2015. So she's had about 4 years with us, and I think we're reaping the rewards of Debra's hard work. We have Greg McDonald, who is our Planning and Infrastructure Director. Welcome, Greg. And we've got Melanie Smith, and I'm reading this because they're titles. They keep making up these fancy titles of what they're called. Community, Culture and Leisure Director. I think you've got the best title, Mel. And Dean Frost, who is a Customer and Corporate Director. So there we are, Dean. Thank you. And we will be hearing from all of them in a moment. So we are going to be hearing about our year in review this year. And there's a lovely, look at our lovely councillors, look at them all there. We're going to be giving you a city snapshot, so a bit of where we are as a city. I'll just run through a few facts and figures, what we've been delivering over the last year. Financially, we want to update you on where we're at. Debra loves a graph, don't you, Debra? Lots of graphs tonight, and you'll just get a trend line as to where we're going, which, and in the case of the graphs, I think that a picture really does paint 1,000 words, so that's great. What key projects we're working on, so where the money's going, events and programs, a raft of events and programs that we provide to our community, and also what we're expecting to happen in the coming year and beyond. So a bit of a snapshot there. So, our City of Willoughby, we've got around 80,000 people. 37% of people live here are families with children, so quite a good percentage of the family. Our GRP, 11.18 billion, so we are big business. And we've got 40,000 people who visit Chatswood daily. In fact, that's the latest figure that we had for last year. We are expecting that figure to go up because the metro, of course, has opened to Rouse Hill. And we've noticed our 24-hour cleansing service, we've had to up the ante on that because we've got so many more people coming through the city. And the Orchard Tavern people tell us that they are quality people coming, so that's good to hear. And the police don't say there's any extra trouble, which is great. We've got 18,000 people who come in every day of the week to work, which is also fantastic. I say come, work, spend your money, go home and use their services. So we're very pleased about those 18,000 people. And we are the 5th largest CBD for employment and the 7th busiest railway station. 17 million people use the Interchange railway station every year. So if you think that railway station is busy, you are absolutely right. And we have 23 square kilometres within our area. With ancestry, you can see that we've got quite a strong Anglo ancestry history, but we are a city of diversity. I like to say we're a city of diversity and a city of harmony. Around 20% Chinese in origin, and we'll see that particularly evident in Chatswood. The good news is the police tell us because of our strong Chinese ancestry, we're one of the safest cities in the whole of New South Wales, so that's something I like to tout. We're very strong on volunteering here in the City of Willoughby. We've got 650 volunteers that help out regularly, Meals on Wheels, Mosaic, I can see some there, all kinds of people that help, and that's equating to about 25,000 hours of volunteering each year. And we offer around 60 services to our community, broad-reaching. The Concourse is kind of our flagship place that we have, our Performing Arts Centre, worth around $258 million. Very rare in a local government area that you would have such a performing arts space, so we're really blessed with that. 7 fantastic libraries, over 800,000 borrowings a year going through those libraries. I like to say if we can just get everyone to buy 1 cup of coffee while we're here, imagine the input into our economy. So we reap the benefits of having that wonderful library service right here in Chatswood and beyond. And we have around 300 visits to our Willoughby Leisure Centre, and I'll talk a little bit more about the Leisure Centre soon. As I mentioned, we've got natural bushland here, 330 hectares of bushland, and 20 kilometres of harbour foreshore areas. Those people that know me know I'm deeply passionate about our natural bushland. We are so blessed to have wildlife corridors and all that right in our midst with being so close to the city centre, and I can see people nodding madly there because clearly you appreciate it as much as I do. 44 playgrounds, people love our playgrounds, little ones, and we're upgrading those constantly, and we have also got 60 sports grounds. So a lot of recreation, we're trying to get people out moving, and we've got $1.7 billion worth of assets and around $140 million worth of revenue that we invest back into the community each year. As I mentioned, we've got 13 wonderful councillors who are devoted to their community, and the full-time equivalent of 413 staff. The GM tells me, or the CEO tells me it's actually more than that, but that's because we've got some part-time people, so it's equivalent to 413, however. Our roads, we maintain roads. We are roads, rates and rubbish, as they say. We've resheeted around about 66,000 square metres of roads in the 2018-19 year, and 3,887 square metres of footpaths. So we are getting the core business completed here at Council as well. Our call centre is very busy, 70,000 calls received. 70,003, that's a funny number, isn't it? We're very precise. 70,003 phone calls to the call centre, and engaged people, so we're not marrying them or anything. The engaged people means that they've taken their time out to tell us what they think about the various projects, things that we've gone on exhibition. About 3,000 people took the time to contact us, and 24,000 customer service requests. And I think the councillors could name a couple of those people that are very vigilant with their customer service requests. They're laughing because they know exactly what I'm talking about. But 24,000, so it is a lot of people that we are servicing within the community. The Concourse, as I mentioned, our flagship performing arts venue. What a fantastic cultural hub that is. I like to say it put the heart and soul back into Chatswood. We've got the wonderful concert hall, the performance space, our libraries contained there. It gives us a home to the Willoughby Symphony Orchestra, Willoughby Theatre Company. Who saw Fiddler on the Roof? Yeah, it was good, right? Excellent. Yeah, it always is. Absolutely fantastic, Willoughby Theatre Company. Proud patron, I should say that because of disclosure reasons, but lots of things going on at the Concourse all the time. And the Willoughby Leisure Centre, I mentioned that, about 300,000 visits during the year. We've had 1,530 learn to swimmers down there. My kids have learnt to swim down there. Absolutely fantastic facility. Was built in 1988. So if you think it's looking a little bit tired, you're probably right. But very pleased to say that Council is investing $18 million in the future to upgrade that. New pool areas. It won't be a 50-metre pool, something we've looked at long and hard. But we do need to provide the diversity in our offering. And we've got a water filtration system there, saves about 1 million litres of water each year, which is fabulous. And we hope that by 2022 we'll be ready for those upgrades. The depot. This is the place where all the nuts and bolts of council happen. And we've got approximately 100 staff located down at the depot. And it's really where that work happens, so the roads, the footpaths, the curbs and gutters, all that nuts and bolts stuff. Our recreation activities are all housed down there. Trees, streetscapes, and street cleansing is also operating out of the depot. And our wonderful Advocacy Centre, I was down there today for the University of 3A Beating Time concert, which was absolutely fantastic. And that's just one of the many events that happen down at the Advocacy Centre. It's a real community hub. It is a senior citizens base there, but we have so much more broad-ranging activities, whether it be church groups or knitting groups. All these kinds of things are operating out of the Advocacy Centre. And we're very pleased and blessed to have that, as well as the retirement village aspect happening out of the Advocacy Centre as well.
As part of the Office of Local Government's requirement, we have a planning system which requires a 10-year community strategic plan, which we developed when the council was first elected, and we had over 7,000 pieces of input from the community on that. When the council's elected, it puts together, it looks at the community strategic plan and then says what it's going to do over its term, which is usually a 4-year term, in order to realise the aspirations of the community. And that is that middle document there, the delivery program. To operationalise that, each year we produce an annual plan and an annual budget as well. So these are our key planning pieces. The community strategic plan has 5 outcomes in it that came from those 7,000 pieces of input. So a city that's green, a city that's connected and inclusive, a city that's livable, a city that's prosperous and vibrant, and a city that is effective and accountable. And the pie chart's showing a good distribution of the operating funds through each of those areas. Now, here comes the graphs. What we have here is the last 5 financial years along this axis, percentages here. This is a measure of how well we are delivering our services and our programs. So there are key performance indicators against our services and our programs. You can see that we put in an 85%, which is about the industry mark, delivery of meeting those KPIs, and you'll notice that for the first 2 years we sat below that, but since then we have certainly lifted our game in terms of meeting those KPIs and lifted our services. You'll notice that 18-19 is the best year yet. If we focus now on our projects and capital works, you can see the same sort of thing. We needed to lift our performance, and we put in this bar, and you can see that by the introduction of project management processes and much more detailed budgeting, that we've been able to lift our performance, and again in 18-19 now we've got real traction around deliverables. That message can be looked at in another way too, about the kind of things that you don't deliver, so that's what you have to carry forward from one year to the next. So you can see in the first year in which the record was taken, we carried forward $8 million from one financial year to the next, which represented about 24% of the total projects and capital works. So remember on the other graphic it was well below that 85%. we now carry forward only about 5.8%, rounding it up, which represents about $2.3 million. So this means that we're delivering far more of what we said in the year that we said we would do it. Now, the reason this will always be trending towards zero but never be zero is because there are times when you'll have weather, for example, which is beyond the anticipated disruption of wet weather. It might also be that one of our contractors is having problems with a supplier trying to get materials on site. And sometimes it's because the community asks us to take more time with the consultation processes, so we lengthen those processes. But what makes this story even more interesting is the introduction of the infrastructure levy, which means that for the last 4 years since that levy was introduced, we've delivered more projects than we did historically back in 14-15. So we started initially with some of the smaller projects which had smaller scale design and consultation processes. We're now doing fewer but larger projects. And so you'll see in 18-19, the last financial year, we delivered an additional $5.4 million of projects on top of the 14-15 baseline. So a really good result when you looked at how many projects there were. Now this is in big letters because the finance team said it had to be, because they said there is no better accolade than to be identified by the State's Auditor General as one of the top 5 financially viable councils or sustainable councils in New South Wales. So we were requested to put that in big letters to keep the finance team happy. Now, as part of our reporting to the Office of Local Government, which results in those kinds of financial sustainability ratings, we have compulsory measures that we need to report against. So if we demystify this, there are aspirations or things that you're trying to achieve and then measures for each of them. So if we look at this first one here, a positive operating balance, all that's saying is we want you to get more income in through the door than you're spending in your operations. So for the first measure, and you can see we meet these 2 measures, the first measure is just saying break even or make a surplus. And you can see greater than 0, and we've come in at 6%. Now for those of you who'd like the really technical details and how the calculations have done, there is a paper there, but tonight I'm going to sort of use lay terminology rather than go into the technical descriptions. This next one says we don't want you to be dependent upon grants and handouts. We want you to generate at least 60% of your income from rates, from fees and charges, and also from investments. So you can see it's 60% there, and we're kicking it at just under 80%, 79%. The next ones say you've got to have a strong cash flow, you've got to be liquid. So how do we go? We meet all 3 measures. So this one is saying here, this unrestricted current ratio, have you got more assets than you've got liabilities? And in particular, this is cash assets that it's talking about there. And it's saying we want you to have 1.5 more times cash cover than your liabilities. And you can see, again, well above that metric. This one here says don't be lazy in collecting your outstanding debts. So always have your debts at less than 5%. You can see ours is way down at 1.66. Now, part of that is our good debt collection processes, but we also have to take, really be honest and say we have an affluent community that can afford to pay, so that does make our life easier. This one here is saying if you got no more money through the door, could you last 3 months? So if you've got no more revenue, could you last 3 months? And you'll notice that we have sufficiently liquid in cash that we could last almost 18 months as part of that process. I was telling staff that I was in a council, I was a resident of a council, where the staff went up in, the residents decided to boycott the rates for the council. It was the Adelaide Hills Council. The Ash Wednesday bushfire in 1983 started from a council dump which was owned by a councillor, and so the residents decided to boycott.
We're not suggesting you do that, by the way.
No, I was just about to say. The residents also still had that debt against them and they still had to pay it. So, and certainly not encouraging, because I don't think we're going to burn you down. Okay, assets is the next really big one. So this ratio here is saying, are you replacing assets at the rate that they're depreciating? So have you got that right? Is it a 1-for-1 kind of balance? And you can see we meet that metric too. This asset maintenance ratio is saying, are you spending each year the dollars that are required to keep the assets in the condition that they should be? And again, you can see that we're meeting that one. This one is for those assets that aren't in the ideal condition that they should be in. So that's our backlog. We want to keep that backlog, according to the state government, below 2%. And you can see at 1.28%, we're certainly doing that. So the last one then relates to managing our debt and our debt levels, and you can see we well and truly meet that. So it's saying if you take the surplus from up in this area and you divide it by the cost of your loan, so repaying your principal and the interest and the service charges on your loan, we want you to have at least a 2% margin, and you can see at 8% we're well and truly there. So how do we compare with our neighbouring councils? So this is a very busy graphic, but we can make it simple. This is just those measures that you've looked at, so the Office of Local Government's measures there, and these are the councils on the North Shore, our adjoining councils. You'll notice that there are only 3 councils that have all green, so Willoughby, Lane Cove and Mosman, and North Sydney, Northern Beaches, Ryde, Hunters Hill, Ku-ring-gai and Hornsby have got a bit more work in terms of meeting those metrics. Okay, there's 2 things I want to focus in on. One is assets, because we did introduce an infrastructure levy in order to tackle the asset backlog. And you can see that that infrastructure levy is being put to work and that backlog is reducing. The other one, for those of you who were certainly might have been aware that during the merger and the proclamation period, we had some pretty disparaging remarks from adjoining residents about why would anybody merge with Willoughby, because it's debt-ridden. It is just debt-ridden. What you can see is we've always been able to meet the debt service ratio, and what's more, it's getting easier and easier for us to meet that over time. So it's easier to carry that debt with each passing year. Now that debt sits with the concourse. The concourse is an intergenerational asset. It would be inappropriate for one generation to pay that whole burden. So what we do is we spread the payment over the generations that will enjoy it, and debt is the way that you actually, the mechanism that you use to do that. So we're in a really good position.
The largest project we undertook last year was the Gore Hill Oval redevelopment. It was a new synthetic surface. It also included the removal of the amenities building and replacement of that, and also a stormwater detention basin under the oval. You can see in this short clip we've converted 18 months of work into about a minute, and that's the stormwater detention basin being reconstructed, which manages flooding downstream of the oval. You can also see the synthetic surface and the new line marking being stitched into the surface. The amenities building was new, as was a new basketball court and a new regional playground. The entire project was $10.5 million and was funded by the federal government to the tune of $9.5 million, and council put in the remaining $1 million. The next few slides show that project in more detail. So that aerial photo shows the perimeter path around the new synthetic field. You can also see the floodlights there. They were special seesaw lights, so we don't have to get equipment in now to change the bulbs. We can drop the arms of the floodlights down to change the bulbs. Those children don't know it, but they're sitting on top of a 2 million litre water tank that controls flooding downstream. You can see the regional playground consisted of children's equipment as well as outdoor gym equipment. There was a new ball stop fence behind the AFL goals. And that regional park shot also shows the proximity to St Leonard's and also how close it is to the Royal North Shore Hospital in that shot there. In addition to that project, we undertook to upgrade a number of our local centres by providing streetscape works. The next few slides show some of the before and after shots. Some of the projects were done with paving, some were undertaken with asphalt and brick banding, and in each of the projects we ensured that we provided equity by way of the $1 per square metre rate remaining the same, but we gave the residents the opportunity to choose the type of paving or treatment they wanted to ensure that they got something that met their needs. In fact, at Pyala, the residents chose to include in the design a community garden. So we were able to provide that, and you can see in that photo there the community garden and some of the residents who were responsible for that, and of course some of the councillors who turned up to the opening.
So in 2018, we delivered 18 park and playground upgrades, totalling $3.4 million. Included in that was the upgrade of the Chatswood skate park, and young people were involved in the design of that construction. And it has features which include a volcano, an A-frame and a flat rail, and we retained the bowl feature, which was quite popular. Chatswood Oval, the installation of new walking paths, and outdoor gym equipment, which has been very, very popular, particularly of a morning and an evening. We undertook a full refurbishment of the Willoughby Park Bowling Club, which included the installation of a new kitchen, new floors, repainting and a new roof. MUSTON Park was upgraded, utilising the Everyone Can Play inclusive guidelines, so lots of the features there are, designed to make it inclusive for all. Our libraries, we are very proud. We were ranked 3 out of 101 for circulation per capita across the 7 libraries. We also did refurbishments at the library to make it more of a community hub. The refurbishments included a space for a creator space, which is a collaboration and group work space, a dedicated local study space, some more quiet rooms, and some more meeting rooms and hireable spaces. As well as that, the foyer and entry area has been upgraded to include nice new seating, the information screen that you can see there, and a display centre which gives us the opportunity to display some various works and various things from the local studies of the library.
During the year we commenced our corporate systems upgrade project that will see us over the next 3 years replace our entire core IT platform. Some of the outcomes that the community will see is far greater opportunity for self-servicing. There'll be far better processes and more integrated processes. Being cloud-based, excuse me, there'll be greater opportunity for mobility and interaction with mobile devices. And from a data point of view, far more enhancements in terms of data storage, data security, and some processes around disaster recovery. We're really excited about this project and really confident that residents will see a far better customer experience outcome as well as efficiencies. During the year, our customer service team introduced us to Dexter and the new world of robotic process automation. Now, don't be misled by the photo and the little fellow in the middle there. He's not actually a real robot, but what Dexter is a computer program that sits on top of our computer systems that essentially mimics the keystrokes that a human would do. For our trial, we looked at the council-free pickup service. Whenever a resident made a request for that service, it would typically take us 15 minutes or a staff member 15 minutes to process that application. They'd be interacting with 5 of our IT systems. Now, because of the bot, this just occurs seamlessly and automatically. From a customer service point of view, we think that there's a real enhancement there in terms of it's available 24/7. So you do your clean-up on the weekend, you want to make arrangements for the stuff to be cleared away, you can do that Saturday evening. Within half an hour, you get a confirmation of when that pickup is. Our staff have really embraced this project because they see themselves saving around 8 weeks worth of mundane time, where they're doing mundane activities, and are really interested in doing more productive, more stimulating and more value-add work. So they're really excited about it. And one staff member made the comment that it really just takes the robot out of the human activities that they do. So they've really embraced it. Talking about our customer service team, and the Mayor made the point of our 70,003 calls to our customer contact centre. One of the things that we do try and do with those calls is to try and resolve them at the first point of contact rather than referring them to others within the organisation. It's a far more efficient and far more effective and customer-focused way of dealing with queries. We're really pleased that last year we were able to achieve 76% of those calls coming in were able to be resolved at that first point of contact. So that's something that's really pleasing for us. And I think what it really does is just highlight the professionalism and of our customer service staff who are answering the calls and are at our front counter, particularly given the complexity of the range of services and activities that council is involved in. But we don't rest on our laurels. During the year we introduced a mystery caller or a mystery shopper program where our staff are assessed against a set criteria that we've established, and following that assessment they receive coaching. We also benchmark, and when we introduced the program we were pretty comfortable that we were going pretty well in comparison to others on the benchmark, but due to the assessments and more importantly the coaching, we've been able to improve our score by 14 points, and we're now leading that benchmark. So we believe we're doing quite well in that space, so thank you.
So, remarkable events that we've hosted for our community, Vivid being the flagship one for me as far as I'm concerned. 71,000 visitors injecting around $4 million into our local economy. We are the only local government area that hosts Vivid outside the Sydney CBD, so we're very, very proud of that. 230 community performance opportunities, international artists engaged, and it's a real winner with the families. We just love Vivid. We've also got our Lunar New Year. Historically, for about 20 years, we hosted a one-day event for Chinese New Year. In recognition of our broader multicultural community, we expanded that this year to become our Lunar New Year festivity. Around 20 events that we held during Lunar New Year. We have Year of the Rat coming next year, and so we'll be doing a similar sort of engagement for that. Our Pet Festival held for the first time, 2,000 people, 5 dogs, 1 rabbit, 1 guinea pig turned up. It was rained out this year, but 24th of November, put that in your diaries. We also held the Archie Paws competition, which was a portrait competition for pets. We had flags up in the mall and was really successful. 25 businesses engaged, so we're looking forward to repeating that again this year. We had Sure Shocked, which was different bands, all ages, drug and alcohol free. Lots and lots of people came along and really enjoyed the festivities there with Sure Shocked. Harmony Day, one of my favourite events. It was our 20th anniversary. So wonderful to see our multicultural community, various aspects joining together to celebrate all good things at Willoughby and beyond. Our Australia Day, strongly recommend you come to Australia Day. We usually have a fantastic ambassador for Australia Day, as well as an Aboriginal performance. We have the Willoughby Band. We often get Gladys popping along, which is a bit of a celeb spot, and the Rotary Barbecue doesn't get much better than that. We've got Live Well in Willoughby. We know that being sustainable and being green is very, very important to our community. We do focus on education and providing different events in that respect, and we're really pleased to say that we've had a 95% satisfaction rate as a result of the over 100 workshops that we've provided to our community. And our wonderful Emerge Festival, we feel like we're just recovering from Emerge. 6 weeks of 80 different events, went right through to September into mid-October. Really something for everyone. We had lots and lots of engagement from different people, whether it be the Matsuri Festival, the Festival Oasis, and lots of things going on for that whole 6-week period, including the flagship project, which was our street fair, about 100 stalls, thousands of people coming to visit, once again really well supported by volunteers and injecting about $500,000 locally. Our Willoughby Symphony, who's Symphony Orchestra, has anyone been? Yes, isn't it fantastic? Absolutely. Nicholas Milton, we are so lucky to have him as our conductor. We have a series that comes through under Nicholas's leadership. Fantastic performances. I'm not a great symphony orchestra going, but I can even get my husband to come along to Night of the Proms, and it's partly because of the showmanship of the conductor Nicholas Milton, but it's just a fantastic thing that we've got, and what an opportunity, and beautiful acoustics, of course, at the concert hall. We've got Art exhibitions, we have 3 different art spaces available through Willoughby City Council, one being the foyer we would have walked in tonight, the incinerator, as well as the art space at the concourse. 50 different curated events we hold during the year for art exhibitions, so we're very keen on art here in the City of Willoughby. We've also got carols in Willoughby Park, which is a lot of fun. The old fella himself usually comes along, the Willoughby Band, the Willoughby Choir, a lot of fun to be had, and it's just so wonderful to see the kids running around having a great time for the celebration for Christmas. And we've got our Seniors Festival. Lots of people over age 55 living here, nearly 18,000, and we have 30 events approximately that we put on for our seniors during the year. Highlight being the variety concert at the concourse, the best $5 you'll ever spend on morning tea in the whole city, and that's sold out usually in record time. And we hold our family festival in January. Lots and lots of activity. As I mentioned before, 37% of our population do have children, and so we especially tailor these holiday activities, so all kinds of things going on, lots of performances, and of course the concourse is central to that offering. And our Heritage Festival, we love our heritage here. Some of you may not be aware that we've in fact got a dedicated museum in Johnson Street with roving exhibitions, but we've got a great team of heritage committee, and this year we hosted ghost tours, food tours, exhibitions and all kinds of things, and that's a lot of fun. Pub tours too, in case that's more your thing. Talks at Willoughby, author talks. I don't know if any of you have been to an author talk, hands up. Yep, couple, great. I love the author talks. Jane Caro was absolutely fabulous, Richard Glover, others. And in addition to those author talks, we also have the Sydney Writers Festival. We engage with them as well. And our community grants, that's Mel's area. They process all our community grants. We've literally got thousands of dollars, free money, people. It's surprising how sometimes they're undersubscribed. So if you are keen on learning more about community grants, please get in touch with us. We've really tailored these to our local community, things like performing arts, community projects, event seed funding, and money's up for grabs, so you've just got to prove that you really need it. And our Chatswood Mall markets on Thursday and Friday nights are absolutely fantastic. The food is incredible. Food from 19 different countries. It's a really cheap street eats. I hear from parents that they're happy to send their teenage children unsupervised to the mall market. It's a very safe environment, and it's a great way to engage with families as well. So we're really pleased that the food markets are so well embraced. And I did mention about our wonderful volunteers. We are very, very blessed here in the City of Willoughby. We have so many people putting their hands up. You can see there 18,000 meals, 900 beds made. We've got our wonderful bushland, about 45 bush care groups, and we have an annual recognition event for our wonderful volunteers as well.
In this very room, this chamber is where all the policy decisions get made by council. So every policy decision is made here, whether it be a local environment plan, whether it be the rating policy for the year or the adoption of the operational plan. This is where it occurs. And here's the hard-working crew. So let's look at some of the activities that the elected council's been up to this year. So advocacy is a key role, particularly in advancing the aspirations that the community has identified in that strategic plan. So advocacy around the impacts of the Chatswood dive site for the Metro project and the Northern Beaches Tunnel. Northern Beaches Tunnel is not a story that's finished at this point either. Public library funding was slashed, and so the councils in New South Wales and local government New South Wales joined together, and the advocacy was very successful in getting that funding reinstated. The community had concerns around boarding houses and private certifiers, which were shared by council. And so advocacy again was undertaken there, and there have been a number of steps that have been successful. We are a member along with a total of 8 councils in the North Shore region of councils. The Mayor is the President of NESROC, and I for my sins are the head of the General Manager's group. There are other committees and groups as well that are involved in advocacy, which we're a part of, for example, around the coast and waste and libraries. Planning is a very big part of the council's decision making, so it's core to the policy decisions. So there are a raft of key things that relate to the local environment plan which have undergone review. So the CBD strategy, work around all of our local centres and keeping them vital. Our housing, for example, reviewed our heritage for more items for listing, all big pieces of policy work. The other thing that we're really keen on is that those larger scale buildings actually meet design excellence. So there was work done on panels and competitions and review processes to improve that. We've done work projecting what the future community needs in terms of whether it be parks or playgrounds or whether it be services, and that's been captured in the local infrastructure contribution plan. It's there that we then go into negotiation with the larger developers about their contributions and match it up against those aspirations and those needs for the community. All of the planning policy work is done in this forum, so whilst the council no longer is engaged in the development assessment process, all of the policy work still sits with council. And things like planning proposals, which are essentially a request for rezoning, are that policy work, and we had 12 really significant proposals in the last financial year that this council considered. Quite a number of those were actually preempting the changes that were foreshadowed in terms of the CBD or the centres. Channel 9 is a site of ongoing interest, planning and advocacy on behalf of the community. And 9 Centennial Avenue took up a lot of our time this year. It was an item which wasn't local heritage listed, so a house that had quite a presence in the street, and demolition had begun on that site. There was a great deal of work between the councillors, council, the owners of the property and the community, successfully resolved the local heritage listing and the retention and the reconstruction of the demolished parts of the building, but providing the owner with the opportunity for future development on the periphery of that site as well, so kind of a fair outcome. Our Green City Plan was launched also in 1819, so this is our blueprint for environmental management. It's how we will spend the e-restore levy, and more importantly, it's our plan for addressing climate change. The long-term financial plan is also updated annually, so we've got a good 10-year horizon knowing that we'll meet all of those metrics, that we can meet and fund the large community projects and our ongoing services and be sustainable. The other big thing, as I said, was policy. Some of it is not the stuff that turns the world, but it's important to our business. So this year the Office of Local Government introduced new model codes around the Code of Conduct, which is the behaviour that all councillors and staff must live by, and the rules that we must abide by. And also, as the Mayor said earlier, we reviewed our Code of Meeting Practice, and the community information seminars came also from that review. And then there are important pieces of policy, not your favourite bedside reading, but they're really important in terms of good governance and maintaining probity, so around fraud and risk, managing complaints, for example, and also assets. The review processes also get consolidated here in terms of a direction forward by the councillors in this chamber. So, for example, we joined up with a number of other councils to make one single big customer, instead of each council being a customer for the electricity, and went out to tender for that. We got much better price for electricity and more renewables as part of that process as well. We've talked about the meeting schedule. We also reviewed the CEO delegations to be able to separate out the policy direction for the city from the operational functions of the organisation as well. In the past, the council has subsidised the operators who operate the concourse on behalf of council, but we went through an extensive review and we now provide no subsidy, so that's a much better return for the community as part of that process. We've talked about the pool. We've also reviewed the Artarmon facilities, which are at a very low rate of occupancy, and looked at ways that we can actually boost those facilities. 1819 was a year of really wrestling with the cladding and the options. That cladding was legal and viable at the time that the cladding was placed on the concourse, but of course it's no longer a product that meets specifications, and so we really had to establish that it was that kind of material, and a new program now to completely replace that. So remove the risk completely. The facility is very safe because of all the fire mitigation measures in there and because of where the panels are actually located, but we want zero risk to the community as the council. And we're currently reviewing our advisory committees as well. Just a quick reminder, we undertook a residents' perception survey. This is on the website. So 71% of the residents surveyed, so there were over 700 residents who were surveyed in a statistically valid manner, who said and rated council's overall performance as either good or very good. When you take the number of residents who score it as very poor, poor, average, good and very good, you can convert it to an index. And that index allows us to compare with other councils. And that comparison showed that at 72, which is quite close to our percentage for good and very good, we were 8 points higher than comparable Victorian councils and 11 points higher than comparable New South Wales councils. So a quick look at the top of the pops and the things where we could do better out of that survey. So the highest ones, so libraries 90% good to very good, waste and recycling 83, bushland 83, parks and ovals 82, arts centres 81. The arts centres is an interesting one because not many people knew about the arts centres, but those who did loved them. This area here are areas for improvement where our highest scores were in poor or very poor. Now, the top three we share, I think, with every other metropolitan council in New South Wales. Traffic and parking, of course, they're not solely council issues. There are many other authorities that are engaged in that process as well. But we're doing our best to address parking and traffic flows. The other perennial, I think, that all councils also find too is planning. In the eyes of most members of the community, planning approvals aren't given fast enough. And then, of course, when there's some argy-bargy about modifying them too, they may not necessarily be happy. So they're the sorts of things that we will continue to improve and have done so with improvement programs. The last two are quite interesting around engaging the community in participation processes and also decisions made in the interest of the community. Now, the reason that most of those people scored them, those who rated them as poor or very poor, the reason they gave was because they knew nothing about them. They hadn't been contacted or they hadn't been engaged in the decision-making process. So we do really strive to engage members in engagement around decision-making, and not just in your local area, but in the broader city as well. As I said, we've got over 7,000 pieces of input into the community strategic plan, so we do work hard there. So we've looked at 18-19. Last couple of slides to finish out is just looking forward to this financial year, which has already started. So you can see here that expenditure of $5 million and above on key assets, open space and sports fields, buildings, with a significant portion of that being the concourse, and also culture and leisure activities. You saw a lot of slides earlier around marketing and events, but you can see it's actually quite a modest spend for that return that we got from the community. Vivid alone returned $4 million into the community. When we look at some of the specifics, we said that traffic and parking was an issue. We do have on our website, we've only soft launched it, a searchable program where you can actually find, like if you want to know where all the disability sites are, you can go onto the website and find out where the disabled parking is. If you want to know where 3-hour parking is, you can do the same. And it'll also show you a street view as to where that's going. This year, we're also looking at how can we make that live in real time, so you know there's a vacancy. Okay, traffic and parking we've looked at. Another one that's really important is engagement for the community. So there is a community participation plan which says exactly how council commits to engage with the community. Vegetation management guidelines for preservation and also looking at views and when you can trim on private land. We've talked about the big policy pieces that will alter the local environment plan, and also on the way through Dean talked about the new IT system and the new council websites as well. 11 sports field projects around drainage and irrigation, including Artarmon and Mowbray. 18 parks and playgrounds there, and you can see some big parks that have been getting benefits. We've got a properties review to make sure that our properties aren't lazy assets, that they're actually working for us, working for the community. And the concourse cladding talked about as well. So that rounds out our presentation.